Good morning, everybody. My name is, as El said, Ovidiu Platon, but I like to be called Ovi. I'm a Romanian autistic self-advocate and the founder of self-advocacy initiative Sunt Autist. Sunt Autist, as El said, means I'm autistic in Romanian, which is purposely written in one word, because in my view, being autistic is something I struggled to find for so many years without knowing I was even looking for it. For me, separating this statement into two words sounds like a fallacy to my struggle and the battle many autistic people face. I envision a moment in the future when any autistic person, regardless of the color of skin, gender, or sexual orientation, can openly say, I'm autistic, sunt autist, and I need support, and get the accommodations we actually need. Under the slogan, Nothing About Us Without Us, Sunt Autist is a local nonprofit initiative created by autistic people to support autistic individuals and people with autistic family members by creating and facilitating informational, socioeconomic, and cultural resources. Being an autistic adult is a concept highly doubted by professionals here. In Romania, as an autistic adult, I do not officially exist here. There is no support for me and no social knowledge about me. Even though I am trained as a psychotherapist and have read about psychology since I was 14, I lived for 36 years without even thinking I could be autistic. I accidentally found out while listening to random YouTube clips from an Australian autistic YouTuber called Paul, who has the channel Inside Asperger's from the Inside. When I watched those videos, I started crying my eyes out. I was crying and I couldn't stop. It was the first time in my life when I found that what I was feeling, who I was, what was tormenting me, what I was enjoying, what was also experienced by someone else. It was the first time my feelings were recognized as genuine. They were no longer a creation of a rich imagination, no longer a need for attention or for being special. There he was, an autistic man talking about his experience, which was so close to my experience that it was mind-shattering. I proceeded to see nearly 20 videos on Paul's channel while I kept crying without being able to stop. This was followed by months of devouring literature in English, because we don't have autistic literature here. I searched all over the country for someone who could diagnose me. Still, nothing was out there for adults. And many psychiatrists and mental health care professionals laughed and made unwanted and invalidating jokes left and right about the idea that I might be autistic. Eventually, I remembered I had previously met someone from the UK at a summer school in the Netherlands who had a PhD in just this aspect of diagnosing autistic adults. I sought out her contact, and after many days of persistence, she agreed to do a brief assessment online and then schedule me for an evaluation at a recommended clinic in London. It was a process with multiple discussions, tests, and questions, and it was nerve-wracking and highly costly. About 5 minimum salaries here in Romania. This way, and only this way, I could have the chance for anyone here in Romania to listen to the fact that I actually am autistic. The challenges faced by autistic people in Romania and many Eastern European countries can be very different from those in the English-speaking world and the Western Europe, where autistic groups and communities and services for autistic people have had more time to develop and take root. My story pales compared to other stories. I heard from the autistic Romanians I met here since my diagnosis. I am privileged with resources and born into a family of means who invested in my education outside of Romania. Most stories here are filled with confusion, anguish, pain, anger, and a persistent lack of resources on many playing fields. Thus, the initiative of Sunt Autist aims to improve understanding of autism in Romania, thereby fostering acceptance, reducing stigma, and eliminating the blinders against the neurodiversity movement. Though personal experiences, in-depth studies, and authentic interviews, we present neurodiversity through the eyes of Romanian autistic people and international autistic people, with all its nuances, raise questions, and search for answers together. However, two of the most common issues we face, whether we try to self-advocate, are, as I said in my story, the belief of being an undiagnosed autistic adult and neurodiversity affirming support from healthcare professionals. I believe these are the main impediments to making our voices heard and providing our insights to improve the lives of Romanian autistic adults and children and prevent them from having the same traumatic experiences we had. Considering this, it is my personal belief that four main aspects could potentially change that. First of all, and most of all, we need diagnostic services. Getting an autism diagnosis as an adult in Romania is close to impossible. Currently, I know one psychologist and her team who has been offering adult diagnostic services since August of this year. However, in addition to her team's apparent lack of resources, from what I heard from them, they are receiving a lot of protest from mental health care professional community. In Romania, anyone over 18 is usually not seen as autistic, but potentially needing a mental health related diagnosis such as schizophrenia and more usual bipolar disorder. Moreover, most people who attempt to get officially diagnosed as adults are met with irony, invalidation, and bullying for most healthcare professionals. Recently, I have been inquiring among UCAP's member organizations about adult diagnostic services that might enable Romanians to be diagnosed. I have been asking whether it could be possible for clinicians in other European countries to offer autism diagnostic services online. However, clinics willing to provide this have turned out to be extremely difficult to find. My path to diagnosis was no exception. As I stated before, I have never suspected I could be autistic for most of my life, even when studying psychotherapy. The medical model of autism I read about in academic literature here is unrecognizable to me in terms of my actual life experience. Also, I'm sure that I can be, many children here are autistic and are not identified because of old and outdated stereotypes and how autism is supposed to look, and instead is left to struggle alone and blame themselves. Asperger's is still a diagnosis here, while PDA is unknown to professionals and the general population. Most healthcare providers still believe you can't be autistic if you make eye contact, like hugs, or have empathy. So from my perspective, a project like this, where we can enable and find clinics that offer online diagnostic services at the European level, is hugely needed. If anyone online today wants to start something like this, even just talk about the possibility of creating such a service, I'm on board right now to help in any way I can. Until we can achieve this, there are plans to bring diagnostic information here in Romania to create diagnostic services that serve the entire autistic community. But we still need an actual autistic community, which is the second aspect that could significantly improve the lives of Romanian autistic people. This summer, I traveled around Europe, visiting autistic communities in the Netherlands, Malta, Finland, and Estonia. Following my diagnosis, I had become increasingly aware of the lack of an autistic community and neurodiversity culture here in Romania. I felt that it was necessary to build this capacity from the ground up. To this end, I sought in-depth knowledge of how autistic-led groups and organization functions in different countries. In my view, for historical reasons, learned helplessness is a common trait in Romanian culture. It remains difficult for the population to get organized at the community level, particularly in a disability sector. For now, I'm under the impression that none of the solutions I have observed in my travels could be replicated in Romania successfully. Therefore, I should remain in the role of a resource gatherer. The tiny nascent Romanian autistic community needs to create an initial identity, a Romanian autistic identity, and develop itself further before a more formal organization can emerge. My current strategy involves facilitating the creation of online self-care and peer support groups. Such groups could allow autistic Romanians to engage in wide-ranging discussions and talk about their experiences, generating positive narratives, feedback on a personal narratives, and the identity of belonging to peers that face similar challenges in unique ways. This narrative of belonging, having a unique voice, has unprecedented power to create individual personal learning resources, rather than focusing on feelings of anger and disappointment that easily dominate discussions. This being said, we also need social knowledge about autism and neurodiversity. I have two further goals, which are the base of Sunt Autist. I want to bring more information about autism in Romania and integrate autistic Romanians into the autistic experiences documentation in Romania and abroad. The word neurodiversity has not been adequately translated into Romanian. Neither have the vast majority of foreign works of autism and neurodiversity created by autistic and neurodivergent people, allies and forward thinkers. In general, some Romanians speak English, but unfortunately, most of us are not at an information gathering level, only at a sufficient level for social conversation. Many Romanians don't speak English at all. I feel that we as a society tend to not see English language concepts or texts not published in Romanian as relevant to our own lives and narratives because of the differences of culture, lifestyle, and general living conditions. Autism is generally seen by Romanians as a sickness to be cured. There is widespread ignorance of evidence-based autism interventions. Here, the only acceptable way of being a good parent of an autistic child is by subjecting the child to behavior modification therapies. If not, parents are scared into thinking their child won't be able to achieve anything in life without anyone actually explaining to them that being autistic means what it means. Parents are villainized and described doom-like scenarios for being confused or having opinions, leaving them desperate with no actual helpful information, disoriented and doubtful of actual autistic voices. Many people claiming to treat autism only have online diplomas, receive zero government oversight for their work, and require absolutely no peer oversight. Parents of autistic children often do not know their rights and are encouraged not to question the offered care, no matter the cost. There is also a plethora of other services offered by poorly qualified practitioners. These range from approaches involving so-called therapies like neuromapping to angel therapy, prayer therapies, and other pseudoscientific or belief-based therapies. This is not a bleak fear-mongering tactic, I'm saying right now. It is a realistic painting of reality through a personal filter in which I'm hopeful and optimistic of the future. The last but not the least important thing of my list of needs is to focus on autistic affirming information and resources. My work on improving understanding of autism and combating misinformation in Romania focuses on Sunt Autist, which comprises of Facebook page, a Facebook group, and a website. Currently, the group has about 4,400 members, mostly parents, plus less than 10 active autistic people. Maybe about 20 of the parents regularly contribute to the group, whilst the rest silently observe. However, in recent months, the group has become pretty inactive, since there were very few of us to begin with, and we have very limited energy. The Facebook page has 6,700 followers and growing, and the blog has about 11,000 monthly readers. These numbers have resulted from a no-resource initiative that started from scratch in January, alongside two other people who helped me a few hours a week. This high demand for Sunt Autist resources speaks of a widespread need for more knowledge and services and regulation of autism care in Romania, where there is little government focused of how autistic children are treated. National legal oversight of who can get involved in children's care and how they are treated is impetuously needed, considering the latest scientific international discoveries and centering on autistic voices. Outside international advocates and autistic trainers, I'm working with them, developing new resources to help autistics of all ages, parents and professionals navigate this confusing landscape in new ways while developing resources for peer support groups for autistics of all ages. We need guidance on the concept of diversity in general, most of all on the concept of neurodiversity. I hope that in 2022, the initiative will grow into an organization that represents a growing self-aware community of autistics in Romania to foster understanding and a general shift in the way autism is viewed here in Romania. Despite encountering many challenges, some beautiful and kind neurodivergent people help me stay on track. And I want to live and develop our community in Romania. The desire for new knowledge offered by families that support the initiative are encouraging signs of great potential for change. I am sick of things going like this. And I want something to change because I actually like living in my own country. I want to enjoy living here, raise my children here, and keep growing as an individual here. For now, I struggle, but I wholeheartedly hope that we still have the opportunity to create change. And I'm so thankful to everyone who has the power, the means, or the will to contribute to that. Thank you.